You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Orange County's longest running business talk show. And I am your host, Rick Franzi. We're going to have a very interesting interview today because our guest is Dr. John Mendola. He's a multifaceted entrepreneur and educator. And we're going to be talking about a lot, as well as a budding author. We're going to be talking about all that on the show today, starting with he's the founder of UCIL, which is University Curriculum for Independent Learning, or Rocker to Doctor is one of his other monikers. So, Dr. John, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks, Rick, for having me.
So let's get right into the interview. Why don't we start with you as an entrepreneur? So can you tell us a bit about your background and your professional entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. I'm actually a musician, but not very good. But I started as a bass player, and I always wanted, like every musician, to play a stadium show and go big. And I had an opportunity to tour Asia as a bass player, and I put together some working capital in India, and I set up my own stadium show from the ground up. And 12 million people watched us on TV, and 15,000 people joined us at the concert. So I kind of just took the entrepreneurial step and followed my dream, and was able to set up a stadium show and play in front of people. And as a musician, that's kind of like what you want to do.
Right.
So that's how I got started.
So that's the rocker part of the Rocker to Doctor, and we'll talk about the doctor part in a little bit. Was that the only show that you produced, or
No.
did that lead to other projects?
Yeah. What's interesting, and so as a promoter, right, an entrepreneur, my thing was to set up stadium shows, make money, and do what I loved. And I always get questions: what happens when you fail? And one of our third show got wiped out by a monsoon or typhoon in India, and I lost everything. Right, I'm like, oh my God, I'm following my dreams and passions. I had two great shows, and an act of God wiped me out. So as an entrepreneur using critical thinking skills, I said, well, I don't want to change my lifestyle. I love doing this, but I can't lose money. So I ended up regrouping and changing with the environment and going with being a concert organizer. So I was then a guy for hire, where companies or people putting on events would hire me to set up shows. So I was fortunate enough to do the handover concert in 1997 in Hong Kong. And that was 38,000 people, 14 international acts. So I then, became still doing what I love to do and getting paid to do it without taking the risk. So I followed that path for a while and set up shows in Hong Kong and Korea and Macau, and that was kind of got me into the record business.
So before we get into that, I'm just curious, you spent a lot of time in Asia. What was the original interest or fascination you had with India and the other countries in Asia?
With India, it was a good bang for the buck and predominantly an English-speaking country. So I put together about 25 grand in working capital, and this was in 1994, and that was enough to set up a stadium show on my own. So I couldn't really do that anywhere else other than India was the place. So I knew I could go and four-wall a show, from start to finish on my own for X amount of money. So that was my desire to head over to India, with some other factors as well. But Asia has always been kind of a boiling point for English speaking, people wanting to learn English, and music was always the great transition. And Hong Kong at that time was being handed over or handed back to China in 97. So the opportunity for doing events was really good because everybody was celebrating. So I actually moved to Hong Kong from 96 to 98.
Hmm.
And had another entrepreneur venture where I had a Hong Kong company purchased my music company in America. So it was a merger and acquisition. So they bought me and actually relocated me, and that kept me kind of in the heart of Asia, where I wasn't too far from India, wasn't too far from Japan, kind of right in the middle, and just spent a lot of time out there. Still do.
So you're like a serial entrepreneur, and it's interesting because you're serial entrepreneuring as you're overlapping things. It's not like sequentially; you're multitasking that. But I also know that you speak, in addition to English, I know you speak Chinese because I've heard you online speaking. How did you learn another language, and how many languages do you speak besides English?
I have a hard enough time speaking English. No, I took 2 semesters at Irvine Valley College for Mandarin, but 我说的不好，我是一点儿不通话. So not very much. I don't have a big vocabulary. As I just said, I speak a little, but not very much. Usually I have to shut people down. 我不明白你说什么，我不知道. But so just a little. I'm not fluent by any means, but I have good, I guess, okay tones. But other than that, a little Bengali, because I spent time in Bangladesh back in 92. We're the first American band to tour Bangladesh. And we did it in 92, 20 years after George Harrison did the concert of Bangladesh. Sure. In New York. So we actually went there and reenacted the show, which was really cool because we got there and there was like 10,000 people at the airport and there's billboards. We were on TV. So I guess I've been able to play the rock star in just weird parts of town, right? Never in America, but I've had that little bit of a limelight in my life.
And that's intoxicating. It has to be intoxicating to have that fame and that attention. And so I commend you for being able to enjoy that success while also finding these other entrepreneurial ventures to apply your talents to. One that I wanted to talk about, which we kind of headlined the show with, which is you're launching an online university. The abbreviation is UCIL. And I'm wondering if you could discuss the inspiration for launching this university, and then we'll talk about the project in specific of the actual getting the university up and operating. But what was the inspiration for you to make this commitment and focus on that?
Oh, totally weird, because prior to the pandemic, to COVID, nobody wanted online. I mean, students were like, no, I need brick and mortar. It's got to be face to face, true education. And then COVID pretty much, indoctored us that we're online. And as a professor, I couldn't handle it either. I'm a face to face, I want to interact. I like being in the mix, and online was really hard until, I figured it out. You got to do breakout rooms and let them get together, the students get together for 15 minutes, then come back, and you had to really interact because you can't lecture for 2 hours. So anyhow, getting to the point of opening up the university, now we're a couple years in, and to the pandemic or wherever we're at, and the students have the option of coming to school, coming to campus. So every other week I teach live on campus, and I've had 2 out of 60 students show up only one time. So students don't even want to go back to school anymore because they're used to sitting on couches in their pajamas, eating cereal, and not have to go anywhere. So I thought it was the perfect time to launch an online university. So I guess innovation, technology, or trends would put me in the situation of, well, why not do an online university? Because now I can't get students to come to class, and before you couldn't get students to go online. So I think it's, the perfect timing, because whether you go to Harvard or UCI or wherever you go, you've had to do online the last couple of years. So I was inspired to do this, and that was the main thing.
So let's talk a little bit about the focus for the university. What is your vision for the university you're creating online?
Well, in the States, it takes around 5 years of being operational before you can get true accreditations. So to kick things off, I do this with the entrepreneurs mostly, is I do what they call the bridge students. So, or I teach. So the to start the university off, we're offering university curriculum certificate courses with a focus on bridge students. So let's say 17 to 19-year-olds. So students that have finished high school or in high school that are looking to go to, a Harvard or whatever. And we're going to give them the same curriculum they're going to have that once they get there as a freshman. So we're offering the same courses I'm teaching now, whether I'm teaching at IVC, Irvine Valley College, or at Westcliff. So giving them the same McGraw-Hill, textbooks, the same courses as a certificate. So if they're taking a course in economics, it'll have 5 courses in economics. And this way, when they submit their applications to a school, they can say, hey, I have a certificate in economics, and here's all the courses I've already taken. So once accredited, so when we get that 5-year mark down the road, then we're the real deal, and then we can open up. But as of right now, we're teaching, we have 7 certificate courses in business, and we have the liberal arts general ed courses, which is like music, political science, history. So the core classes that you're going to have to take to get a degree. So that's really the concept of what we're doing, and just getting it off the ground.
So, and it takes a lot of energy, as any early stage entrepreneur knows, to create something new. You need to attract both the students to your university, and you also need to attract the educators who are going to prepare the courses and deliver the courses. Can you talk a little bit from an entrepreneur's perspective about how you are creating demand for your product, as well as creating content to be able to supply that demand?
Okay. Well, the content is easy because the courses I've been teaching over the last 7 or 8 years are pretty much all, most universities have used like the McGraw-Hill or the Pearsons. So the curriculum itself, the books are all in place, and then you have the discussions, you have the quizzes. So the curriculum's easy because it's a 3-unit accredited course. So the curriculum is licensed. So we, when we sign a student up for a course, they pay us for the units, and then we license out the curriculum to the academic, books themselves, such as McGraw-Hill. As far as getting the students, once we get everything launched and going, then we'll start advertising to the bridge students. And then professors at the moment, it's me and Dr. Jeanette Voss, and I have a couple other colleagues that are helping us as well. But the first one we're launching is just a business administration course, which is a 5-unit course in business administration, and I'll be teaching all those. And then as we grow into all 7 courses and expand and get the student bandwidth, then I'll start bringing on more colleagues.
So, like any new venture, it takes money to get a business off the ground. So
Yeah.
how are you, not to get personal, but how are you financing it, and what's your vision for the corporation or the business entity that underpins UCIL?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because being I teach entrepreneurship, I mean, everyone always thinks, oh, I get the product online and I'm going to make millions. Well,
Right.
at the right place at the right time with the right stuff, get lucky, something go viral. But really, you can yodel in a Walmart and open up for Britney Spears at Coachella, but just like you can win the lotto. But basically, you have to market whatever you have, and that's pretty much the bottom line. So in this case, we're actually, and it'll be the first time me doing this because I've never did an IPO before. And as a, professor, I've done merger and acquisitions, and I've, sold companies and things like that, but I've never done an IPO. So I'm actually excited to do it because, it'd be nice for me to teach courses and say, oh yeah, I did an IPO. So we're actually putting that all together right now. And hopefully by the end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll have the IPO together to get the university off the ground.
That's very exciting. And you mentioned Dr. Janet Voss. I know she's a well-known author, and you're co-authoring with her a new book. And I'm wondering if you could describe the content of the book that you and Dr. Voss are writing.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Voss, she sold over 10 million copies in Asia of her first book, The Learning Revolution, and I think about 32 million worldwide. But the new series is called the SelfLearning Revolution because we're in a technology age, right, where anyone can be a self-learner. So there's 6 books in the series. I'm in 3 of the 6 books, and I write a chapter on entrepreneurship in one of the books, which talks about thinking outside the box and basically just being a self-learner, a self-thinker, working out problems. The 2 methodologies I teach are Lean Six Sigma, which is DMOC, define, measure, analyze, improve and control, improve and control. As environments change, you change with it. And of course, SWOT, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I teach people, or in this book on my entrepreneurship, I show people how to identify, opportunities or problems and how to work through them, going through steps. And I guess my niche is, especially as a university professor, I don't, most professors teach from a book because their job in life is to teach. I'm the opposite. I teach as a hobby, but I teach, what I've been doing for the last 12 years. So I make the textbook come to life by showing reality. So in Dr. Voss's book, as I write this chapter, I give them real life scenarios. Like here's what the book says, how you do it, and here's how it was actually done. So that's kind of my gig, making the textbook come to life.
I love that because I believe in the power of collective intelligence and peer learning, and examples are a great way to teach, especially young adults and adults. We learn better through stories, and
Mhm.
it sounds like you're bringing stories of your experience into marry with the academic content that's contained in the book. Very powerful.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. So it's teaching's my hobby. I like sharing with people and helping people learn.
Well, you're about to launch something that could help a lot of young minds kind of take the next step. And you're right, the pandemic has disintermediated a lot of traditional industries. And it feels like from this conversation, it is also doing that to the academic and the university systems that people kind of used for generations as a way to get educated. And these are now new alternatives. So congratulations for being on the frontier of maybe the next wave in education.
Yeah, thank you.
So if someone would like to learn about you, the work that you do, the university that you're launching, or the book that you're writing, I mean, where do they go, doctor, to kind of learn more about you?
Well, LinkedIn has a pretty good profile on me. And if you can put up what that is, because I don't know if it's LinkedIn/J Mendola or John Mendola. And the university is live at ucileducation.com at the moment. So the course curriculum and concept and everything's up there. So
That's exciting. So I'd like to thank you for being a guest on the program and giving a bit of your, I know, busy time to sort of share what you're doing and your journey. I appreciate the time we spent together, Dr. John.
and thank you so much for having me, Rick.
You're welcome. I'd also like to thank the audience. You're either watching us today live on one of our platforms, or you'll be listening to it as an audio podcast on all the major podcasting sites. And your audience, you're a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. Dr. Johnny's episode is episode number 1370.
Wow.
If you're a fellow Orange County entrepreneur and you'd like to tell your story on this platform, then connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Rick, R-I-C, Franzi. You can also visit my website, which is the same thing, rickfranzi.com. We can start a conversation and hopefully have you on our program at some future date. Until the next time we all have a chance to be together, I truly hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.